Hello World Wide Web, I'm Dr. Shado, the internet personality with the best hair, and it's time for
The Summer of Sylvester Stallone!
to continue with Rambo First Blood Part 2. So, allow me to get this out of the way right now. Yes, it's obvious to everyone that Rambo First Blood Part 2 has pretty much nothing to do with First Blood. The tone of the movie changes drastically from the psychological hell manifest in Hope, Washington, to some good old-fashioned explosions in the jungles of Vietnam. Why would John Rambo want to go back to the hell that he can't get out of his mind? Because it's not in his mind anymore. His PTSD just GTFO'd and just left nothing behind but a well-trained super soldier with years of experience that he can't remember. The fact that the movie is a sequel to a movie based on a novel that had no sequels, and takes so many liberties in the characterization of the protagonist to simply make a balls-to-the-wall action film may in fact be the origin of the character-breaking sequel joke.
There is only one law. His law. Gandhi 2.
There's really not much more I can say without diving right into the film. So let's take a look at Rambo First Blood Part 2 and see what excuses the plot gives for these changes. Because explosions? Well, that does work for me. Rather, this is showing us where Rambo is after First Blood. Incarcerated, providing some good old-fashioned slave labor. That is, until he's pulled it aside so he can have a chat with Colonel Troutman, again played by Richard Crenna.
John, I told you that I'd help you when I could. You interested?
I am certain that while here you have seen the Angry Video Game Nerd episode. You know the movie does not start until you say yes. However, the reason the movie gives is that they've got a covert op they're planning back in Nam, and one of the newfangled computer things says that Rambo here is one of the top 3 most capable of completing the mission. I don't know who the other 2 were. I'll just assume that there was a paper jam in the printer before some jackass decided to format the whole thing and see if they could run Snake on it.
Sir, do we get to win this time?
This time it's up to you.
No red team, blue team bullshit this time, Rambo. Now, it's straight up deathmatch. With that, they fly out to Thailand, near the Vietnam border, meeting up with Erickson, played by Martin Kove, despite that he looks dangerously close to Will Ferrell to me in this film. But don't worry, he's a minor character. The real important contact we're introduced to is Murdoch, played by Charles Napier. You know, Duke Phillips from The Critic, or Zed in the Men in Black animated series.
It's a hell of a combination.
He rattles off Rambo's history to Rambo, which is fair enough as a man's lack of PTSD does lend credence to the idea he's completely forgotten about it. After that's done, he cuts to the chase. There are tons of American soldiers still missing, presumed killed in the Vietnam War. But as there's no confirmation, Rambo is to go in and find out if they are indeed being held captive.
You're to confirm their presence by taking photographs.
Photographs?
Just photographs.
Seems when they put in good at shooting things in the computer, the system had a difficulty distinguishing between homonyms.
Under no circumstances are you to engage the enemy.
I'm supposed to leave him there?
I repeat, do not engage the enemy.
Just in case the fact that he's wearing a suit and tie and sitting at a desk and not engaging in any kind of conflict himself isn't a big enough hint that he is indeed a bad guy. His orders to not kill anyone removes all doubt. And it also proves he is incredibly shitty at planning an action movie. The idea is Rambo checks if they are POWs or not, and Troutman leads a different team to extract them once confirmed.
I'll meet you both in the operations center in 1 hour.
Fuck was that? The Cola of Doom?
You'll be flying a ceiling of 250 feet when you bail out. Think you can handle it?
According to many, there is no way in hell a parachute could possibly deploy from such a short distance. According to base jumpers who routinely go for distances less than half that, no problem.
John, I want you to try to forget the war. Remember the mission.
You haven't been paying attention, have you, Troutman? Of course, while Rambo may be going in alone, they are sure to point out that he's going to have the technological assistance of an entire room full of 1985 military-spec computers, or less power than a Snapdragon S1, take your pick. Rambo isn't too impressed, though, as he knows where true power lies.
I've always believed that the mind is the best weapon.
Slip the enemy a Sudoku puzzle, challenge them to complete it, and while they are distracted, stab them in the fucking neck! They tell him he is to make contact with Agent Ko, then head out and be the most badass, over-equipped paparazzi in the jungle. As he prepares to begin his 36-hour mission, there is one last thing to mention.
You remember Murdoch said he's with the 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines at Khartoum in '66?
Yeah.
The 2nd Battalion was like Ted sank.
Oh my, you mean the man that obviously can't be trusted can't be trusted? Oh, well, thank you for letting us know at the 13-minute mark. I really hate when things like this pop up when you least expect it. Once they reach the drop point, Rambo jumps, and is immediately snagged on the plane. Don't worry though, that just means he gets to pull out that trademark Rambo knife, only $81 this week on Amazon. Thus he drops down, though a bit off the mark from the original drop point. Well, at least that means we can
Maybe the smart thing to do is to abort the mission right now before there's any more complications.
watch Murdoch continue to establish he is obviously the bad guy in this movie. At least Troutman is here to insist they give Rambo 36 hours to complete the mission, so we actually get to see the movie. Obviously, the first course of action is Rambo meeting up with his partner for the operation, Co.
Rambo! Tôi đang nấp. Ông định còn đứng nhá?
Well, that's just fucking great. Well, the subtitles aren't so important that I have to rewrite the movie to understand the plot, so just fuck it. Point is, Agent Co here is a woman, and vaguely Asian, as the actress Julia Nixon is a native of Singapore. Gotta love how that's close enough to say that the character's Vietnamese. And Agent Co here, a agent of America working for America, speaks broken English, despite the fact that it really doesn't make sense for her character, and the actress grew up in England. Nevertheless, it's easy enough for her to get Rambo's trust as they move to travel by river. In order to avoid raising the suspicion of the Viet Cong army, the two enlist the help of pirates as a taxi service, who have some handy anti-army tools on board. Not to say this doesn't raise a few more suspicions.
Russian.
Yeah, but that rocket was marked 7.62 millimeters. It was denoted as a round for an AK. It's pretty obvious by now you're not dealing with particularly smart Russians. It's a long enough boat ride that Rambo and Miss Co have a little time to get to know each other.
I'm expendable.
Expendable. What mean expendable?
Means I got another damn movie I'm gonna have to cover this summer. Thanks! As night falls, the two of them make it to the camp where Rambo must investigate and shoot any man he sees. With a camera, of course. Before we can get that far, however, we have to establish the very plot-relevant prostitute on a moped. Trust me, it will be important. Just like the weapon of choice for Rambo this time around. A compound bow for sneaky, stealthy kills.
But I thought you're supposed only to take pictures.
Of what? It's fucking nighttime, and I'm pretty sure the Viet Cong army aren't the biggest fans of flash photography. After sneaking around, doing all he can to avoid the ever-vigilant bathroom patrol, he finds some pretty damn conclusive evidence that yes, American POWs are being held in these camps. 10 years after the war officially ended. I mean, yes, it is certainly possible. It's possible they have some right now. I just personally think it's a really damn long time to hold a grudge. Opening that cage is far too much work, though. Fortunately, the Viet Cong happen to have a convenient prisoner-to-go service. Now he just has to slip out unnoticed. By killing everybody before they can have a chance to realize what's going on. I love how they get suspicious when they hear the POW coughing lightly, but the twang of a bow and the impact of the arrow just leaves them none the wiser. Well, mostly because half of them are dead when that happens, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. Regrouping with Co, Rambo and company, head out. Of course, it doesn't take long for the enemy to realize something is amiss. Still have nightmares about riding a motorcycle off a cliff, leaping off before it explodes, and then using a grappling hook to hijack a helicopter, and yet the Penau army is still on my ass! Thus, it should come as no surprise that when they make it to the river and take the Allied ferry, it turns out that their allies aren't allies anymore. You have a gun in Rambo's face, and yet you opt to slap him. You do realize what he's gonna do, don't you? Unfortunately, his boomstick is slightly less effective against a military attack boat, but we all remember this handy-dandy AK-47 on steroids. With one more kill for the road, he runs away from the huge explosion, successfully shaking the wanted level. With that out of the way, he discards his superfluous character.
You take this. We go on from here.
You better I stay till end.
This is the end.
Tomorrow's an angel watching us all.
Or acknowledging we're only at about the halfway mark, the enemies spot Rambo heading to his unreasonably dangerous extraction point, and just so happen to have the area completely fucking surrounded. Don't worry though, the team is there to see him too, and relay that he's found an American POW.
I want you to abort the mission immediately. I say again.
Oh my, it's almost as if Murdoch is actually a bad guy!
We're going down! You're not going anywhere.
Plus, despite Troutman tagging along for the extraction, there's little he can do to convince the mercenaries to actually listen to him. Why they don't just shoot him in the face and toss him out of the helicopter and say the Viet Cong did it, I don't know, but there's a plot line to it here too. Which means, despite a valiant stand, Rambo is captured himself, which is pretty considerate when you take into account the fact that he mowed down several of them during this little standoff. Point of it all is now he is quite literally in deep shit. So movie industry, please increase visual fidelity. 4K, 8K, 18K, I don't care. Just remember, leave smell-o-vision off into the far land of terrible ideas, along with new coke and unskippable cutscenes. But here we learn the real menace in Vietnam keeping the American soldiers imprisoned are Russians! Why? This is 1985. Everything's either drug trafficking, cultists, Russians, or Russian drug trafficking cultists. This introduces Podolsky, played by Steven Berkoff. He has personally shown up, removing all doubt of Russia's activities in this area, to interrogate Rambo, and in the process, be a memorable character in this film.
I wish you to radio your headquarters and say that you have been captured and condemned.
Fuck you.
Yet he can still be upstaged so easily. But how will Rambo escape? With the help of the extremely plot-relevant moped prostitute service, of course. This allows Ko to slip in unnoticed, while the Russians torture Rambo with a full-body version of the ab belt. Being Rambo, of course, he still won't crack, so they bring in his friend to threaten a bit and get him to comply that way.
Murdoch.
Where are you? Give us your position and we'll come to pick you up.
I'm coming to get you.
But instead of telling him to pull out and leave, he just brings down the thunder with his vocal cords. Oh, and this. This is why when you only need your prisoner to talk, you should still remember to keep him tied down. Not that I have any kind of experience in any... look, explosions! In the chaos, Rambo and Ko regroup to escape into the jungle, dodging both the Viet Cong and the Russian helicopter, finally reaching a calm the next morning. This means the two can establish, hey, Rambo's a guy, Ko is female, she should totally be a love interest.
You take me with you?
And now imbued with the power of a chub, Rambo can go forth and... Fucking hell, Kim Kardashian has had longer-lived relationships. Rambo clears out the enemies so we can find out this wasn't the female thus hero's prize cliché, but the partner thus killed for emphasis cliché. Also, it said in the original edit, Rambo shouted, "No!" into the sky, and it echoed back 3 times, but test audiences laughed when that came up, so they cut it out of the movie. Just imagine Darth Vader in episode 3 and you'll understand why. Now Rambo is all alone and ready to kill everyone who stands in his way, which, as you might have guessed by now, he's quite good at. Well, it helps that his enemies tend to suffer from osteoporosis, of course. And they muffle their own screams, making sure that any attack designated as a stealth kill still counts as stealth. And plus using mud as camouflage 2 years before Predator came out. Now I'm wondering if they're gonna add Rambo to a Mortal Kombat game. Eventually, they do catch on and begin a chase, running through a small Vietnamese village. But do not fear, Rambo can simply burn fucking everyone to death in the nearby crops. Which kinda sorta does remove a large portion of the settlement's food supply, and they had nothing to do with this, but whatever. Hell, if that's not good enough for you, he utilizes the explosive arrowheads, taking aim and blowing up the fucking village. Seriously, Rambo, I love explosions, but the enemy camps the other way. Anyway, he does at least remember to take out the enemy vehicles, and all this wanton destruction kills more than a few Viet Cong soldiers. They don't show him killing off innocent civilians in this. I mean, they ran for cover in the buildings anyway. Well, there were some monks with them, so they probably transcended this plane of existence before that happened. Maybe? Though it appears one man is still alive, and sees our hero escaping. Of course, when he empties a full fucking magazine firing from the hip, every shot misses. Somewhat more confusing, Rambo doesn't even bother looking concerned as the man aims with his pistol, yet still fails to hit his target, giving Rambo more than enough time to dramatically pull back and fire. That has to be the most ridiculous thing I have seen all movie. Do it again! Fatality. Still, we have to keep increasing the level of insanity, so the Russian copter appears, dropping a barrel of explosives that somehow explodes in 5 distinct locations all at once. Being unsure if they got him, they open fire on the water, then teleport within arm's reach of the service. Gotta love how fucking everyone has a pistol on them, yet restrains themselves out of respect for the action movie struggle, allowing Rambo to toss one to their death and hijack the chopper with his knife. This brings us to the iconic return to the enemy camp. There's really nothing to add. This scene takes all of the tension built up to this point, was only slightly mitigated by a fight here or there, and just lets it all out. Everything explodes. Everything. This omnicide taken care of, Rambo collects all the POWs, who conveniently enough manage to fit quite snugly in the helicopter. But they're not home free yet, as Podolsky, who is like the last bad guy left at this point, doesn't know when to cut his losses and just GTFO, resulting in a helicopter chase scene. Which, if you ask me, is a hell of a lot more nail-biting than your average car chase. I'm genuinely worried about the stunt pilot's lives. Rambo's chopper is hit, but he regains control and slips out of frame for a second, just in time for Podolsky to catch the stupid villain bug. Not just blowing him up when he's back in sight, but inching closer and closer to check on him first, which means... Oh, that explains what Rambo was doing. He was switching weapons in the inventory. Turns out this is a Bethesda game. With that taken care of, Rambo is able to fly this smoking, broken machine all the way back to base, saving the soldiers, though there's one more foe for Rambo to deal with before the movie closes. Rambo, I know Windows just came out in 1985, but don't you think you might be overreacting a little? He also corners Murdoch, but interestingly does not slaughter the man, instead telling him to either deal with finding the rest of the missing men, or deal with Rambo. This brings our story to a close, with our lead giving a speech on what the moral of this movie is supposed to be about.
And what is it you want?
For our country to love us as much as we love it. That's what I want.
which evidently went right over every fucking critic's head, as they seemed to say this movie was trying to say that war was a good thing. It wasn't saying that war was something we should glorify. It was saying that we should give basic human respect to those who put their lives on the line for us. Whatever. Anyway, that was Rambo, First Blood Part 2. And it's still pretty kick-ass, though, in a lot of different ways. While First Blood was the tale of a man broken by the horrors of war, and Rambo First Blood Part 2 glosses over a lot of that just to give us a hard-boiled super soldier, I still don't buy that this movie is glorifying war itself. The reasoning behind Rambo going in was to rescue POWs, dealing with another horror of war. Along the way, Murdoch reveals that his plan all along was not for Rambo to find them, but find an enemy camp, and if he did find anyone, the pictures would be conveniently lost. It was higher-ups covering their own asses and sacrificing human lives in the process. Yet again, another horror of war. I will say that Rambo shows the average soldier in a positive light and has a very patriotic tone to the final monologue, but still it's not the gung-ho war is great film a lot seem to make it out to be. Of course, it is an action movie, and holy fuck did it deliver there. Upping the ante in every regard, Rambo First Blood Part 2 dwarfs First Blood spectacle in comparison. The shootouts are bigger, the explosions are more destructive, the fights on a much larger scale, and it's got a fucking helicopter chase scene. Still, plot-wise, there are some complaints to be had, mainly that Murdoch's plan all along was to fail the mission, so they send Rambo? Not just send him, but spring him out of prison for the express purpose of taking on this mission. Way to fuck up, dude! Also, the fact that they reveal their insidious intent to Troutman, yet don't kill him, and he does nothing about this, it's kinda hard to swallow. At the end of the day, Rambo First Blood Part 2 is a hell of a ride, and perhaps even more memorable than the original, though for very different reasons. First Blood introduced Rambo, but Part 2 made him an icon, coming in at 4 exploding arrowheads out of 5. Sweet hell, the summer of Sylvester Stallone looks like it's shaping up to have the highest rated movies of any summer special. I think the man did a lot of sequels. Probably gonna even out a bit there. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I'm Shado, and remember, favorite your rocket launcher. That way it can show up on your quick swap menu.